Hey guys, this is Mel, and I am back to talk about the originals. This time we're going to tier rank the seasons of the show. I'm recording this on January 16th, 2021. Legacies is coming back on the 21st, so I figured why not revisit originals before we get back into Legacy Season 3. So huge spoiler alert before we get right into it. Not only for spoiler alert for all 5 seasons of the originals, but also spoiler alert for the Vampire Diaries, all 8 seasons, as well as the Legacies from what has aired so far, so the first 2 seasons. Because as I'm talking about the originals, I really don't know what I'm going to say in regards to everything else in the shared universe. So just a huge heads up about that, though this video will pertain mostly to the originals themselves. Otherwise, other video reminders up on screen, so take a moment to remind yourselves of those. Also, at this time, my Vampire Diaries tier ranking video of the seasons should be up right now. Card will be up on the screen, so you can go check that out as well. But let's get right into how I'm going to do this video. So, first time you're watching a tier ranking video, I'm going to have 5 questions that are going to help me decide on how I'm going to rank these seasons. And the question is, what's my first reminder that comes to mind when I think of this specific season? Second is, what is the mythology that was revealed during the season? Third, what is the antagonists or the villains of the season? 4, what are the storyline focuses? Either I specifically remember, which kind of is the point because I didn't really refresh my memory on any of this, or anything that stuck around, whether it's pertaining to the big season storyline or if it's maybe like character specific storylines or relationships, anything like that. And then the final question is, would I watch the full season, all episodes, or are there only just key episodes I would go back to watch? And hopefully that would help me decide how I feel on the season as a whole, which would lead to my 5 rankings. We got rewatch worthy, which is self-explanatory. We got great, then we got good, then we got, well, it had its moments, but then we have meh. It's like either I didn't really feel for it or what have you, but because we only have 5 seasons and we only have 5 categories, I'm only going to have 1 season in each category because I want an actual list. I can't put them all in rewatch, I can't put them all in good, and I can't put them all in meh. I want an actual linear ranking for it. And again, huge disclaimer that these are my opinions. You can agree with them, you can disagree with them, but they're my opinions of what I remember watching the show, since it has been a while since it's been on. But your rankings could be very different from mine, and that is okay. We each have a very different experience watching the shows in itself. Plus, also, I want to keep in mind that whoever the characters I like on the originals, some may be very questionable characters, and I might be on their team, but that does not translate to the type of people I would want to associate myself with in real life. There's a very different in what is deemed right in both of these worlds. So just keep a reminder of that, because I know sometimes people tend to blur the lines and such. But that's just a huge reminder of the separation. So when we get right into that now, first off, season 1. Season 1 aired during the 5th season of the Vampire Diaries. Let me get these dates correct. Right. With the backdoor pilot airing in episode 420, I believe, of the Vampire Diaries. It started in 2013, so can't believe it's been 7-8 years now since it premiered. It's just blown my mind. So that's something to take away there. First reminder of season 1. First off, the fact that it's 1 season where we actually have the core trilogy of Klaus, Elijah, and Rebecca for majority of the season. Season 1 is also kind of just setting the ground. I mean, we kind of knew the 3 Michelsons already from the Vampire Diaries, but this is them kind of going into how they are in New Orleans, what their dynamic was. Plus, also, this spanned over the course of Haley's pregnancy with Hope. So there's that, getting to know a little bit Marcel. So that's the reminder there. Mythology, though, I would say is a little bit more into the past of the Michelson family, and then also the mythology of how the different supernatural factions work within New Orleans. So there's nothing new except maybe the different branch of ancestral magic that the witches deal with, which calling upon the ancestors a little bit more so than Bonnie's type of witch, when she dealt more with the spirits of nature and stuff. Because ancestral magic is literally tied to New Orleans, and from my understanding, if any of the witches who had ties to New Orleans tried to practice magic outside of the city, they weren't able to do so. They were more powerful inside because that's where their roots were, if that's my understanding correctly. So there's that. We got a little bit more of the Crescent Wolves as Haley tries to dive into her biological history. So that's stuff with that. Yeah. Antagonist, though, I guess we can kind of say there's a huge antagonist with Marcel because he's the reigning king of New Orleans. Klaus is trying to infiltrate and take back the kingdom he left behind. Plus, also, Marcel is kind of antagonist towards Haley because Marcel kind of has this reign over the werewolves, turning them into wolves all the time, except on the full moon when they could turn back into human. And then Marcel pretty much has a lockdown on magic, preventing the witches from using it. So I think for majority of season 1, it is Marcel as the antagonist, and then it switches to the dead witches, I believe, when they come back resurrected in hopes of taking down Klaus, if I remember correctly. Or they were coming after Hope before she was born. But yeah, so there's that. Storyline focuses. What did I pick up? Haley's pregnancy, obviously, for sure. You kind of get a love triangle kind of brewing up with Klaus, Haley, and Elijah because of the fact that it's Klaus and Haley that are expecting the baby, but then Elijah and Haley seem to have feelings towards each other, but then that interests with Klaus thinking that Elijah is trying to come in and take over his role as the father. So that gets messy there. There's also the introduction of Davina and Marcel and Camille into the fold. We do get the old history between Rebecca and Marcel from what I remember. We also get the strained secrets between the Michelson siblings themselves when they find out what happened the last time they were in town. So yeah. In regards to all our key episodes, definitely key episodes I will tune in back on because they're really good. Oh, Harvest Festival too, I forgot about that. There's that as well. There's a lot of key episodes that I would tune in back on for sure in season 1. I mean, there is the two-part crossover we got with Tyler coming to New Orleans in episode 7 and 8. Episode 16 was that huge confrontation before Rebecca left. 22 is when Hope was born. Episode 3 and 4, I think, kind of had a bit of Camille and Klaus, I think, brewing. 9 was a good one, I think. I think that was the huge combustion with Klaus against his siblings, or was it 8? There's definitely a few key ones that they really stood out to me, or they're coming back to me like 7 years after watching them. So I'll definitely put it up in great. Season 1 is going to be a great. But let's move on to season 2. So season 2, first reminder is the fact that we get a reunion of sorts among the Michelsons. And this is where we see the return of the whole body swapping thing that Klaus introduced us to in season 2 of the Vampire Diaries when he arrived. So we see all the dead Michelsons coming back, who have died on the Vampire Diaries, coming back and possessing the body of witches and kind of taking on their witch forms. So we see the return of Esther, we see the return of Finn, we see the return of Cole, we see the return of Michael actually coming back in his regular body because Davina did it to try to give her to Klaus. And all that is kind of in preparation for the arrival of Dahlia and Freya, who are trying to get baby Hope, who Klaus and Haley have faked her death for, as Rebecca secretly took care of her. So it's definitely focused on the Michelson family in this, which was really great because then it ties back from mythology-wise. It goes back even further than 1,000 years when it was Esther, Dahlia, and Michael's youth, and how the tension between them started and how this curse between the two sisters now affects Freya as the oldest Michelson among the siblings, and then Hope as the firstborn of the next generation. So that was more that was still more Michelson based. It's not mythology of like new species information from what I remember. We do get a little bit more of hybrid information because Haley turns into hybrid because she was killed shortly after Hope was born, but then she got turned into a hybrid, and then she got married to a werewolf, and their whole pack kind of became hybrids themselves due to the new unification wedding ceremony thing that they had going on. But I'm getting ahead of myself there. That is a storyline focus. Antagonist, I said Dahlia and a bunch of the previously dead Michelsons, which I kind of mentioned already. But storyline focus, like I said, we get Haley marrying Jackson, which kind of makes a love triangle with Elijah. Storyline focus of keeping Hope safe and hidden from Dahlia, who wants her. There's a storyline of Freya coming back as a long-lost Michelson and seeing if they really should trust her or not. And then moments of seeing if Klaus could truly be a father figure for Hope, and also see the love story of Cole and Davina, who she thought was Caleb, but it was Cole possessing Caleb. And then we do see Rebecca getting possessed by a witch as well. Whole bunch. We do see some progress with Klaus and Camille in this as well, from what I remember. I do remember the Christmas episode in this season was pretty good too as well. All are key episodes. I would watch all of season 2. Season 2 is probably one of my favorites for sure. At the moment, I'll put it at rewatch worthy, but I know I'm going to have to reconsider. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But it's definitely up there. I really love the focus that season being on the Michelsons and really diving in deeper. It's kind of similar with season 3 of the Vampire Diaries, and we're just starting to scratch the surface for them. But for this, it's like, yeah, for sure. I'll keep it there. But let's move into season 3. So season 3 okay, this is a little tricky. Season 3 lines up with season 7 of the Vampire Diaries. This is also featuring the crossover event before the Vampire Diaries jumped 3 years ahead in time. So that's something there. But first reminder in season 3, I would have to say it focuses around a huge prophecy that depicts the demise of the Michelson family. So the whole season they're trying to figure out which portions are true or not, and which elements applied to what. And then since a part of the prophecy each applied to Klaus, Rebecca, and Elijah, it was trying to figure out who was going to do what, like who's going to betray who's going to fulfill this part of the prophecy and such. So that's a huge reminder there. Mythology based though, we do get a little bit more of learning about the Michelsons' time as new vampires. So dealing with their time in their first 100 years of immortality. This also leads us to the introduction of the first vampires that they turned. So we had Rebecca turning Aurora, we had Klaus turning Lucian, and then we had Elijah turning Tristan. And then kind of having them compelled to believe that they were the Michelsons, so that Michael would always follow the fake Trinity, so that the real Trinity could kind of go off and run. But that caused a major rift once their true memories came back to them. So that's a huge mythology there of really going back into the vampire history of the 1,000 years and such. And just seeing the mind games and seeing how they all truly are worked in their own different ways. So there's that. Antagonist being the fake trinity of Aurora, Tristan, and Lucian, as they're the ones behind the prophecy or trying to take advantage of the prophecy. And then eventually Marcel gets roped into it, and he ends up being the one that fulfills the prophecy. So yeah, with an ending that was just heartbreaking for sure. Storyline focuses, again, dealing with prophecies, what I remember. I do remember the crossover event actually deals with the breaking of the sire line. So they were able to detach Klaus from his sireling. So now that if anybody kills Klaus, the rest of his bloodline don't get killed off with him. It also confirmed that all our main characters on the Vampire Diaries that were vampires are actually stemmed from Klaus's bloodline, because there's always that question of which Michelson was it, which is also why they were never able to kill the remaining ones, because they couldn't tell. But when Stefan went to New Orleans and he was able to be detached from Klaus's sire line, it proved that Stefan, Damon, and Caroline and Elena were not connected. anymore. Like, they didn't have to worry about a Michelson dying and then they would die too afterwards. So I remember that as a huge storyline focus there. We do have, I think Davina's focus was resurrecting Cole in his original body, I believe was another one. We also had the vampire organization called the Sticks, I believe. Yeah. Yep. Am I forgetting anything? Prophecy was a huge one. Nope, that's pretty much it. All our key episodes. I've really crossover, loved it, so I would definitely rewatch that. What I really liked about this, oh, Camille became a vampire too, I forgot that. What I loved about this season was the prophecy, the constant question of whether or not, which elements were connected to it or not. We got a little bit more of the Michelsons in this. Yeah, regular Finn was back, regular Cole came back. So yeah, I think I would have to put season 3 in great, and then move season 1 down to good. Because I also still have to remember that season 1 kind of disrupts all the previous history that was established on the Vampire Diaries about the originals and about how they spent the last 1,000 years. The season 1 kind of debunked all that isolation that they had brewing and like all the dark reputation, and then they kind of made it like, no, we had a home base in New Orleans in season 1. It's like everybody knew that we were the Michelsons. Everybody knew that we were the originals. When in the Vampire Diaries, they made it seem like no one knew who the originals were. They were this elusive group, only known as be the first vampires, and like you didn't know who was a part of it. So, anyways, they're down to good. Season 4. Season 4. Okay, this season 4 had its first. It was the first mid-season release. It also takes place 7 years in the future. So after the events of the season 3 finale, we jump 7 years into the events of season 4. Plus, this makes it so that it doesn't line up with the 3-year time jump on the Vampire Diaries. But season 4 aired after season 7, I believe. Right? No, it aired after season 8 aired. Right. Okay. So the final season of Vampire Diaries aired, and then when anything that had like hinting at to the Michelsons, a lot of that would either happen during the 7-year time jump where like everything was a standstill, or it was once like the season 4 picked up. So I remember that being like a huge that's the thing. When they said that they were gonna have a time jump, I was worried because like you have 2 shows, so unless you do time jumps of the same amount, then like you're pretty much eliminating any crossover, or you have to be mindful of like what you do in the one that's in the future. It's not going to mess up the one in the past, or like vice versa and stuff. So anyways, moving on. First reminder, season 4 is the fact that we get a 7-year time jump, so that means we're dealing with a 7-year-old Hope. So that was a huge reminder there. So we also get to see Klaus actually being a parent to his young daughter. That's something there. We also see them all reuniting and returning to New Orleans. Mythology, we do get introduced to the Hollow, but we also get introduced to the creation of the werewolves, which is highly connected to the Hollow. We find out there are 7 pure bloodlines for werewolves, and their creation was as a punishment for trying to destroy the Hollow, or this witch known as the Hollow. So that was a huge thing there, and it also found out that Haley is actually connected to the Hollow's actual bloodline. So she is a descendant of the Hollow, which is why Hope gets targeted by the Hollow. So antagonist is the Hollow. That's the only really major one. I mean, there are followers of the Hollow, so they are also the minor antagonist, but overarching villain of the 13 episodes is the Hollow that takes on this blue glow. So there's that. Storyline focus, again, the Hollow, Michelson family being reunited again. We get the romance brewing between Freya and Keelan, one of the last werewolves of a specific pure bloodline. We also, I think this is where Vincent was regent for the witches, I believe. But he was working, and then Marcel is still in his beast form version of a vampire, and they're trying to run New Orleans together, and they're worried when the Michelsons return. So there's that. By the end of the season, though, in order to save Hope from the Hollow gets separated and put into Klaus, Elijah, Cole, and Rebecca. And in order to keep the Hollow separate, the four of them have to stay far away from each other, so separating the Michelson family once again, and then leaving Hope again without her family. So would I watch all her key episodes? There's probably key episodes or key moments for sure that I would watch the season for it, but it's definitely going to be my least favorite, just because of the fact that the Michelsons pretty much end where they started off. So like, I remember when the season 4 finale aired, I was so angry that the Michelsons were once again being separated from Hope, because that's what happened in the season 3 finale. They got stuck in these magical comas for 7 years, otherwise they would die. And then they get woken up only to spend a short amount of time awake with her, and then only to be separated by having to stay on opposite sides of the world, away from her as well, too, because the Hollow was being drawn to her, and if they each had a fragment of the Hollow, they each couldn't be near her without any magical disastrous consequences. So I feel like, in a way, you could have disregarded season 4. Like, if anything, I like to think in my head canon as the originals went to sleep at the end of 322, and then they just woke up 15 years later into the events of season 5. Or, because I will talk about season 5 in a second, but kind of season 5's enemy is kind of still season 4. You could have pushed what was happening in season 4 into season 5, and like made that as like one full-fledged season. You could have, just because like I don't like the fact that Hope still gets separated from the family. I mean, that's just my headcanon. I mean, Hope could do a lot in 15 years without her family, but yeah, that's just me anyways. But let's go into season 5, because I will talk back on season 4 because of it's connected. But season 5, huge reminder of the fact that we wake up again 7 years in the future when Hope is 15 years old. So that's a huge thing there. Klaus, Elijah, Rebecca, and Cole are on different parts of the world, staying away from each other and from Hope, so that the Hollow doesn't draw its power from their collective pieces and target Hope once again. Also, during these 7 years, Elijah has asked Marcel to compel his memories away, because with his memories, he believed that he's the one that would break and actually go back to his family when he was been tasked not to. So him erasing his memory allows him to have a sense of happiness for once, but then when they call him back for help, he's on opposite sides of them, which is very different from the Elijah that we've always known for the last couple of seasons. Plus, he's not in his suits anymore, which is just weird. So that's something there. Mythology, you kind of get back to the idea of what a pure vampire is, because we've kind of diluted the whole meaning of the vampire werewolf, witch hybrid, and Hope. So we get the purest vampires coming back and trying to get rid of the hybrids, so that targets our three hybrid family. We also get the return of the Hollow being a threat, because the pieces are still in Klaus, Elijah, Rebecca, and Cole, but then Hope does a spell that pulls all their pieces back into her, so she can have her family back, but then that eventually takes its toll on her, and she breaks the werewolf curse on her. So there's that. Also, Haley gets kidnapped, which leads to her death, which Hope kind of accidentally orchestrated, but Haley gets turned back into a vampire because the Purist got a hold of her, but because of that, she ended up dying to protect Hope. It's a crazy thing. In the end, Klaus takes the Hollow out of Hope and then sacrifices himself so that the Hollow can never get to her again. But then Elijah also does it sacrifices himself with Klaus as well too. I don't know who I'm talking about anymore, but it's a mythology mixed with antagonists, because there's a mix of everything. And then the storyline, so much. Okay, storyline focus though is the fact that the Hollow is preventing the Michelsons from being in the same room together with Hope, because if they do so, biblical things will happen. We got the fact that Haley got kidnapped, and originally they thought it was because of these purist vampires targeting the hybrids, but it turned out that it was Hope who kind of stashed her mom away in hopes that it would bring Klaus back home to her, but the purists got a hold of Haley and used it to their advantage because Hope made it impossible for magic to find her, so it kind of backfired on her. So there's that. We also get the love story of Keelan and Freya. What else? What else? I mean, you do get a lot of callbacks because it is the final season. They knew that before going into the season. So there's that. Oh, we also get a little tip. We also get episodes where we are at the Salvatore boarding school, which was established in the season 8 finale of the Vampire Diaries. So with that, we got to see Alaric again. We got to see Caroline a few times. We got to see the Saltzman twins as well. We also got, I think, episode 12 acts as the backdoor pilot for Legacies, where 15-year-old Hope meets Landon, and then 2 years later, when Legacy starts, they are reunited again. So that's something there. I will say, all the key episodes, it had its moments. There's a bunch of things I wish season 5 did differently, and that was Haley's death and Elijah's reaction to Haley's death is just something, regardless of whether or not I'm a shipper of the two of them, the way that it tracked didn't make sense. I didn't see why Haley had to die the way that she did. So that really didn't sit well with me. The fact that it took Haley's death I think it was her death that re-triggered all of his memories back. Or, I mean, I liked going down his memory hallway, but yeah, the fact that he had no memories was just a difficult storyline to kind of deal with, especially with who Elijah is. I did like the dynamic we got to see with Klaus and Hope whenever they pushed the boundaries of being in the same room together without the whole hollow affecting them. I really liked Hope dealing with the purest vampires. We did get a wedding moment with with Freya and Keelan. That was really nice to see all the family back together again for that. The finale was really heartwarming in the fact that we got the family back together and being civil to each other, but then heartbreaking because of what Klaus and Elijah ended up doing. Also, with my mindset of thinking that since the hollow still stems between season 4 and season 5, I think I would have preferred having the introduction of the hollow mixed into the events of season 5, like have it start and then I kind of wish that we had season 5 being 22 episodes, or not, I guess 26 because it's 13 and 13, where we had the hollow, and then that way the Michelson family could only be away from Hope shortly, like maybe over the holiday break or something, and then they call them back. It's just because I can still think of, okay, if I don't know, maybe if like Hope ended up, I don't know, a lot could happen. Maybe it's just with my headcanon that like I still think of like a Harry Potter originals crossover where Hope goes to Hogwarts or something. I don't know. It's just I still remember thinking a lot of the mythology in 5 could have been dealt differently if 4 ended up being. I don't know now that I think about it. I feel bad that I didn't feel like usually the final seasons of a show, if you go in knowing it's the final season, they do pretty good job of trying to wrap things up as best as they can. But I know I felt a lot of disappointment in how Haley was dealt with, because she was barely in the season. I think that was it, because of the fact that Haley was rarely in the season, and when she did come back, she died, which is an issue I have with some of these shows. It's like, maybe I don't want my character to come back for a visit, because that can mean their death. But, yeah. But otherwise, I think that's going to be my ranking. Season 2 is my rewatch worthy. Then we go to Season 3 with great. Season 1 with good. Season 5 with it had its moments. Definitely the crossing overs with like the boarding school were always pretty cool and interesting to see. And just seeing teenage Hope coming in her own and then having Klaus to deal with her was just funny. And then meh is season 4, because I really just, I mean, it had its good moments, but overall season 4 is just my least favorite of them all. But that is about it. What did you guys think of my ranking? And I want to know what your own ranking of the 5 seasons are, so please let me know in the comments down below. Love to hear your own thoughts, theories, and own thoughts and opinions about that. I want to know what was your deal breakers for certain seasons, or what was the moment that made it the season for you. I really want to know about that. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and check my other videos if you haven't done so already. If you want, check out my Tumblr page, link for that is down below. Free blog promos, web clips, quotes, gifs, synopses, news, all the good stuff, all found in one place. Go check that out. I'm a little behind, but I need to catch up on that. But I'm currently in my last semester of my screenwriting program right now, and I'm on the final legs of 3 major writing projects. So I'm a little tight on tight on timing right now. But otherwise, WordPress, link for that is down below. Anything I post online is connected to WordPress. A little more organized, a little more detailed, but still a work in progress as well. Same thing about that. I do have to update it, but I'm really getting slammed with assignments right now, and they're all very lengthy assignments. But otherwise, guys, that is pretty much it. Again, the Vampire Diaries tier ranking should be posted. I'll put the playlist for my tier ranking videos in general, which include Julie and the Phantoms songs. We have the Arrowverse shows and the crossovers. We did a Supernatural one, and we did the Vampire Diaries one. And not in that order, but the playlist will have all those tier ranking related videos attached there. Otherwise, if you want, you could check out my Vampire Diaries specific videos or my original specific videos, or since Legacies is coming back on January 21st, you can catch up on my recap videos for that. But until then, guys, or until next time, notification bell, because I don't know when I'll post the next video, aside from when Legacies, my regular updates for that, will be coming back. But yeah, until then, guys, this is Mel. Wish you all a great day, great week, wherever you are. Thank you for watching. Please be safe during this pandemic, wear a mask, and have a great day. Bye for now.